Show. Um, in case you are once again wondering why you're not hearing Alfonso's wonderful voice, he again has been called away on urgent business, but should be back next week, possibly 2 weeks, not sure. But in any case, I am your special guest host once again, Scott Lander, coming to you live from Easton, Pennsylvania, and we have a special guest co-host. Guest co-host. Yes. Okay. Any case,
that works.
Yeah, I think that came out terrible. My wonderful sister, and from what I am told, the first female co-host in the history of the LDM Sports Talk Show. So you're all in for a treat, as am I.
Hey now.
And welcome, Lori Blander, coming to you live from Manhattan. How are you, sister?
Good. How are you, little brother? It's good to do this with you. I was so happy that you asked. I feel so honored.
Yes, living the dream. And I can see that you are representing your Baltimore Ravens. And to give you a little background on Lori here, Ravens, Devils, Orioles, and we'll say, that's because they're terrible. We'll say University of Maryland. So interesting mix. Why don't you fill in the viewers on how one gets that kind of mixed teams?
Well, so born and raised in New Jersey, Devils. Lived in Baltimore for 26 years, so became a Ravens fan. Born and raised a Giants fan. Family still has not forgiven me for that. But I was in Baltimore, living as a resident in Baltimore when the Ravens came in 1996. So I've been a diehard Ravens fan since day one. Was a season ticket holder until I left to move up to New York and just bleed purple. Orioles, not so much.
Well, your Orioles fandom is probably rival to my Mets fandom. When both of those franchises have had the last however many years that they've had, it's kind of hard to get into it. That being said, Uncle Stevie and the Mets are actually starting to spend some cash these days. And, of course, we have a lockout going on. Yay! So let's focus on the sports at hand. Might as well dive right in with a big one. The Super Bowl 56 in the books, and it was a good one.
It was,
yeah. For myself as a neutral observer, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I started this playoffs not with the Giants, obviously, but I started it with the Eagles and Cowboys, which my hatred for both just almost as strong as my love for the Giants. So it could have been disastrous, but luckily they both went out in the first week, which left me with really nothing to hate and just hoping for a good game. Now, you and I, we grew up in the era of the one-sided, terrible Super Bowls. I mean, my first Super Bowl I remember was, I think, Super Bowl 19, which would have been Dolphins and Niners. And I believe the Niners won that in blowout fashion, followed by the Bears over the Patriots in blowout fashion. Giants blew out Denver, et cetera, et cetera. And you had these terrible games up until really Super Bowl 25, which, of course, the Giants and the Bills with the wide right Norwood. And then there were some terrible games after that. So we live now in an era of good games. And I think we saw, we definitely saw a good game. Came down to the last drive. Like I said, as a neutral observer, all I could really hope for was a good game. What are your thoughts on how that game goes?
Well, I agree with what you said, that the games have been really close in recent years. As for this one, I was not a neutral observer because as a Ravens fan, I could not let the Bengals have it. I just couldn't. After years of looking up at our butts for however many years, I mean, those fans went from zero to obnoxious in about a day. So I could not have that happen. I was very happy with the outcome. I thought it was a great game. I really did. I thought, I mean, come on, you had to love that halftime show too. But
of course, yeah, we're in the age bracket, absolutely.
yeah. I think I pulled something watching that, but it was it was great. I thought it was a good game. I was happy that it wasn't a blowout, and I mean, even some of the ones that have been close of recent years. Think about the Patriots and Atlanta. You know, it's like you get off to this great start. It looks like it's going to be a blowout, and then we've had some really fantastic endings. But this one, I thought it was great.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. And, there were some controversial calls down the stretch. I think people are getting every game, especially every big game where all eyes are upon it. As long as you have human officials, there's going to be human error. That's just the way it's going to be. You have instant replay that you can correct a lot of things. Always going to be controversial calls. I don't think anything was ridiculous to the point of conspiracy and fix theories that some people are throwing out. I don't think anything was even remotely that close. So that being said, I don't think any calls really sullied the game.
No. I think people had really short memories too, because anybody that's complaining about that hold down on Cooper Kupp towards the end of the game seemed to forget that Jalen Ramsey got his head twisted around on a non-call for the first play of that game for that long touchdown to T. Higgins. So I think if you're going to complain about one that was a call, let's talk about the one that wasn't and maybe call it even.
Yep. No, I agree. Absolutely. So I'm like I said, I don't hate either team. I'm fine with the Rams winning. I'm especially happy for Matt Stafford. We've talked about that on this show at length. What happens when you take a guy who's got who you think is got talent? When you take him off of the Detroit Lions, this is what happened. And it was his first year. That's the great thing about it. He wasted no time, got himself a Super Bowl championship in year one off of Detroit. I'm wondering, there was some great, you see that meme going around about the Detroit Lions banner?
No, I didn't see.
21-22, our former quarterback won a title, et cetera. So, I have seen some like Detroit fans are very happy for him as well. So good for him. They're already, of course, starting with is he a Hall of Famer? And I didn't really think of that. Not yet, but he's not done. He's not done. How old is he?
36 or 37, I think he is.
Oh, he's that old. Wow. Okay.
I thought that's what I saw. 36, 37, maybe. I could be wrong about that. I looked it up the other day. I should know that. Okay, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. That's just me. I don't believe it. I think that if you are going to look, he paid the guy paid his dues. He really did. And he was way too good for that team, for that franchise. And I second what you say. Like, he comes over here. In fact, the best meme that I saw around the game before it was a picture of Matt Stafford next to a picture of Eminem, and it said, Matt Stafford playing in the game, Eminem playing the halftime. This is the closest that Detroit will ever get to a Super Bowl. And,
yes, I saw that. Was great.
And I just don't think he has the numbers. And then, anyone that does is saying, but look at the team he played for. But if that's the case, there are so many other quarterbacks you could make the same case for. True. How can you say that Matt Stafford is a Hall of Famer, but not Eli? Like, how, I just think I'm on the team that I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. But like you said, he's not done.
Right. I'm looking at it now. He's 30. He just turned 34 on February.
34, okay.
So he's got at least 2, if not 3 solid years left. And if they keep that team remotely intact, he can do a lot of damage and make a case for himself in that 2-3 years. I would agree with you that he's not there yet. If he announces retirement right now, probably not. But he could put a lot of damage together for himself in the next 2-3 years. It will be interesting to see.
Yeah.
What else?
He was just one of the great stories to come out of that game for the guys. Like, it was the one thing, I think every team always has a guy that you just can't root for. And I think the Rams were just the one team. I think if you went from top to bottom of that roster, you could not find a guy not to root for. Like, I had a bias in the game. I love the Eric Weddle story. He was great in Baltimore. He was great in the community, just all around great guy, great player. Comes out of retirement, signs a contract to come back for the playoffs, gets his championship, and retires the same day. Like, I was just so happy for him. But Andrew Whitworth, you got Andrew Whitworth there. You got Aaron Donald. I mean, he's young. He has a lot of years left if he chooses to play. But just a number of stories there on that team.
Yeah, and two names in particular, the two ex-Giants, because I've had this conversation regarding both. First, the lesser of the two evils, Odell Beckham. Now,
yeah,
I'm indifferent. As a Giants fan, I'm indifferent. He was phenomenal for the Giants for a few years. And talking about great memes, it's not a great meme, but since that, that boat picture before the Giants' last playoff game, when they got crushed, since that picture on the boat, the Giants have the absolute hands down worst record in the NFL. And there's a bit of a head case, but clearly there are more worse head cases in the NFL. So I'm indifferent. I was not rooting against him. I wasn't rooting for him. This is not a situation where like had Eli Manning gone to another team his last year and given it one more shot, unless it was the Eagles or the Cowboys, I absolutely would have rooted for him. Switching sports for a second, had Henrik Lundqvist not had the heart issue and actually played for the Caps that one year, I absolutely root for the Caps, all division aside. Odell not on that same level, so I was indifferent. Good for him, good for him. Caught a touchdown pass.
Wait. Just one thing about Odell Beckham. Just before you go on, just one thing about Odell Beckham. I saw it a little bit differently because I get to look at Odell Beckham now and laugh at the Browns and say, "Hey Baker, it's you."
Yes.
Not, old, it's not me, it's you. So that made me kind of happy. So I was happy for the guy because it makes the Browns look even more like a dumpster fire.
Another divisional rival you hate, and another of the teams you mentioned whose fans, because I've encountered, you encounter Browns fans, and Browns fans are better when they're terrible. Same thing with Cincinnati. Same thing with Buffalo. God bless those fans for sticking through their team through for the most part, thin and thin, not even thick and thin. But you give these teams a little bit of a taste, and they've gotten obnoxious. Like the Mount Rushmore of those fans, I guess, would be Browns, Bills, Cincy, and Toronto Maple Leafs. All nice, humble fans when they're terrible, but you give them a shred of goodness, and they all become Cowboys fans. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay.
So. Let's go to the other ex-Giant, the two evils, Mr. Eli Apple. And he was a bit of a hit case on the Giants, but he's really exploded to the point where Giants fans, again, most Giants fans I talk to, somewhat agreement with me about Odell. Yes, no, okay, either way, fine. But nobody was rooting for Eli Apple. Even if they were rooting for Cincinnati, they were rooting somehow against Eli Apple. And it was so great that he got torched for the game-winning touchdown after all of his gas talking.
Two.
He got torched for two, including the game winner. Beautiful to see. Nobody liked this guy.
No.
What do you got to say about him?
So I've been having a blast because I'm guilty. I'm one of those that got sucked into Twitter, and I've just been having so much fun roasting him. The other day, I made a little meme with like his picture on the milk carton. If found, call. If found, call. I said your local burn unit. It's the memes. The Twitter universe has been crazy. And here's a guy that there are some guys that you don't root for the sake of not rooting you for them. But Eli Apple deserves everything he's getting.
Sure,
he deserves every bit of it. You don't go on Twitter and just start trashing not only your previous teams from top to bottom, but you don't trash the fan bases. You're two of the most loyal fan bases in all of football are the Giants and the Saints. You just don't do it. You don't. These are the team that drafted you that gave, and he would have gotten drafted by someone else, fine. But that's where you started out. That's who gave you your first paycheck. And then the Saints sign you. You crap the bed on both teams. You're known as a draft bust, and then you start tearing everybody apart, talking about how great you are. And let's be honest, that team carried him, and he didn't carry anybody. I got into it on Twitter. I can't help it. I get sucked in. It's, character flaw, we'll call it. But one guy wrote on one of the Ravens account that I follow and said, Eli Apple was better than all your DBs all year. And I kind of wrote to him and I'm like, yeah, but our all-pro DBs, one was out in the preseason, one was out not long after. I said, so yeah, of course he was better. He was our third, fourth, and fifth string DBs. I said, Eli Apple's not even the best corner on his own team. Good luck with Cup and OBJ. And the guy writes back and is like, oh no, we'll have Hilton on Cup and Cheeto on OBJ. And I'm like, okay, so in the same breath you're telling me I don't know football, you're saying that he's one of the best defensive backs in the league. He's just not good enough to cover their two top guys. Like, I just didn't understand the people that were defending him. He's terrible, and he deserves everything he's getting right now.
Sure. Absolutely. But
I don't have an opinion.
Fair enough. Yeah, exactly. So that was Super Bowl 56. Any other thoughts about the game? Anything we did not cover?
Just one quick story about Cooper Kupp.
Sure.
I was happy to see him get the MVP, but I realized a little tidbit that nobody cares about but me, but I'm going to say it anyway. So Cooper Kupp, I did not realize that he came from Eastern Washington, and he was an unrecruited college player. Nobody wanted him. Went to Eastern Washington, had a pretty decent career there, which was how he got drafted. But I realized he was there in 2012 was his freshman year. So in 2013, as you know, but no one else does, I went to Towson University in Baltimore. In 2013, Towson that had a really good team that year with Terrence West, who went on to the NFL, and we made the FCS championship game. Well, in our semifinal, we played Eastern Washington. We beat Eastern. We also beat Jimmy Garoppolo in Eastern Illinois on that run as well, which another one that we played. But Cooper Kupp in that game, it was a good game, but he actually had a fumble that we then turned into a touchdown. So I've been telling everybody, my little claim to fame is that Cooper Kupp recovered just fine, but on one cold day in December of 2013, my little school got the best of Cooper Kupp.
Nice.
That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Very, very nice.
And Carson Wentz in the final. Garoppolo, Kupp, and Wentz all in that year, that run. So that's it. Nobody cares, but I care. So I get to tell that story.
Almost makes you wonder how they're not a bigger football school.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, so moving on, there is a little event going on called the Olympic Games, and I haven't watched anything, to be honest with you. The time change, a lot of things going on. COVID is just, it's wreaking havoc, obviously, on the entire planet, and it has been for 2 years now. Obviously the Olympics is going to be affected by that. You've got, with the hockey, the pros not in it. You've got, I like to get everyone's opinion on that. How do you feel in a non-COVID regular world? How do you feel about the pros in the Olympics for whatever sport, specifically hockey, I guess?
So I'm a total hypocrite. I fully admit this. I am a total hypocrite. I love watching the hockey, because the hockey, and I think I know the reason for it, but I hate the pros in basketball. And the reason why I say that, and I think maybe the NBA has changed a little bit, but I think in hockey, you have so much ethnic diversity. You have players from all the bigger countries, US, Canada, but then you also, Russia, Czech Republic, Finland, Sweden. I just think when you put the pros in hockey, it just seems to me like a little bit more of a balanced field. Mm. So I don't think there's any surprises, because if Sweden won, it wouldn't be a surprise. If Canada won, it wouldn't be a surprise. I think in basketball, I've hated it for so many years because the U.S. is just so dominant and it's so lopsided. So I'm a total hypocrite. I love it in hockey. I hate it in basketball.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think, there's definitely something to be said for that. I mean, yes, the 92 Dream Team was amazing to watch, but it was kind of, it was almost like going to a Harlem Globetrotters game. I mean, it was ridiculous. Yeah, the other countries have closed the gap a little bit, but there is no excuse for the United States not winning every gold medal in basketball and until the end of time.
Right.
You've got better. I think you've got probably more parity between the silver and bronze teams. But the United States should win it every year. And like you said, in hockey, you don't have that because, while Canada is pretty much the best in a pro-filled team, the United States, Sweden, Czech Republic, they're all easily comparable.
Anybody could win.
Exactly. So I am a firm believer. I get what you're saying about the NBA players, but I am a firm believer in every Olympic sport. Send your best, period. Obviously, the rules of pro versus amateur has always been gray, dating back to the Soviet Union days and whatnot, as to why they won every gold from 64 to 76. And before 60, they won a bunch. Obviously, the rules were always muddled as quote unquote professional versus amateur. So to eliminate that, you just send your best, period, no matter how they make their paycheck. But I understand what you're saying about the NBA players cutting into the competitiveness. I get that. Speaking of skirting the rules and the corrupt IOC, let's talk about the big story. There are a few feel-good stories going on, but let's talk about the big story. The 800-pound Russian gorilla. What is her name? Kamila Violeva, I believe. And a 15-year-old, I'm sure everybody's familiar, the 15-year-old who failed a drug test for apparently taking grandpa's heart pills or whatever they were. And then the IOC doing what the IOC does, which is being corrupt, favoring the Russians. Because don't forget, the Russians shouldn't even be competing in these things. The whole Russian Federation got banned. They just gave them a different name, and apparently they're not flying under the Russian flag, and they're all in it. So the IOC proved how ridiculous they are there, and they doubled down at this time because the IOC washed their hands of having to rule. They basically let the Russians rule for themselves, whether their own athletes play. They ruled they're eligible. Did you hear Tara Lipinski and Matthew Weir?
And Johnny Weir, yeah, I heard them. And I think what they said was spot on. I mean,
absolutely.
They couldn't even sugarcoat it. They just came on and said she shouldn't even be here. We got nothing to say.
Absolutely. And, who knows what the deal was. There's always shady things going on there. The Olympics, Russia, of course. No offense to my Russian friends. But, who knows if she was a pawn. She's 15. Who knows if she was a pawn, if she did it willingly. Who knows? The point is, should have been penalized. The Russian team should have been penalized. Play. So I guess in some poetic justice, divine intervention, enter the cliche, whatever you want. She fell twice today and didn't even make the podium. Because on top of the ridiculous decision, the IOC, I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. The IOC, okay with her even competing, then said, well, if she gets a medal, she's not going to be allowed on the podium. Like, what's the point?
No, they said if she won a medal, they weren't going to do a medal ceremony.
Oh, right.
That's what they said. Okay. And the thing is, what I say to that is, okay, but she's one person. Let's say she wins the gold. How do you take away the silver and bronze medal? That the experience of stepping up onto that platform, having somebody put that medal on you, like they were going to just take that away. In the team event, no medal ceremony. The U.S. finished second, so the Americans don't get to have their moment because someone cheated. I mean, how many athletes have told you that they competed in one Olympics, they finished silver or bronze? Hearing the other national anthem of the winner is what kind of fueled their fire to train harder, do better. So yeah, you can make the argument and say, but it wasn't even their anthem. But sometimes that's what drives you to do it better the next time. Exactly. I just think the whole thing is it's absolute garbage. Yeah, it's an embarrassment. It is an absolute embarrassment, not just for figure skating, but for the Olympics in general.
Exactly. And the good news is there's so much uproar because there's always something at the Olympics, always something, whether it's straight politics or whether it's a mix of politics and sports or whatever it is, there's always something that is a head scratcher that embarrasses the IOC and just exposes the IOC for the most corrupt, inept, ridiculous organization on the planet. So the good news is the outrage, the outrage about this one is so loud worldwide that the IOC has egg on their face about this one, and hopefully changes will be made, and this one's just not just going to go away. So
no.
Most do. The IOC just basically just washes their hands of everything like they did. I don't think they can do that anymore. I think there's going to have to be changes made. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just if they're paid off, if they're afraid of the Russian. Who knows? But whatever the case, I wouldn't
put anything past it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we mentioned the word conspiracy theory earlier. I don't think any of these are conspiracy theory. Like, there's something going on. Well, the IOC is just, needs to be just ripped up and rebuilt, because it's just not fair to the supposed purity of the games and the athletes competing.
Yeah.
So. Okay, having said that.
Well, the whole thing too is that they just keep saying their reasoning, just going back to why Russia's even there in the first place. We don't want to punish the athletes. We don't want to punish the athletes. But what you're doing is, by letting this happen, every decision that has been made punishes the other athletes.
Right.
So that's what I don't understand. And with regards to letting the Russians decide, the USOC was faced with a similar situation back in the summer. And all I keep saying throughout all of this is, hey, Sha'Carri Richardson would like a word. I mean, here's the fastest American. She won her trial for the 100 meters. That makes her the fastest American going into the Olympics. She smoked a joint because her mother died. And the U.S. made the decision to keep her home. That's not a performance-enhancing drug, but a rule was broken and they enforced it.
Right.
So here you have this little girl. I do believe she was forced. I mean, at 15, at least feed her a better lie. Good Lord, grandpa's heart medication, feed her a better lie. But just poor decisions all around. It's a complete joke.
Yeah, and like you said, punishing the team. They said that they don't want to punish the athletes. Well, if you punish the athletes, that's the only way, and it is unfair to the athletes, and of course, obviously, the athletes that they have to compete against that they shouldn't be competing against. But if you punish the athletes, then the decision makers and the politicians they're the ones being punished because they're citizens of the country who want to wave the flag and see their, the only way is to hand down punishment. That's the only way they will get the message and stop breaking the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the fact that we joked about that. I remember Alfonso and I talking over the summer when the Summer Olympics were going on about Sha'Carri Richardson. And yes, the fact that obviously in the last decade, marijuana is viewed a lot differently than it used to be. Yes, it's the furthest thing from performance enhancing. It's performance limiting. Nobody smokes joint before a race. Just don't.
Yeah, and let's be honest here. I think the NFL and the NBA, I believe, don't even test for it anymore. So if it's not, and I get it, a rule's a rule. They enforced a rule. I understand that, but it's like, now, what are rules?
Exactly. You know what? If you're going to, so that's something that needs to change. Like, just get it off the ban list. But you have to be consistent. Baseball is actually decent with that. It's a very loose comparison. But like, if an umpire has a big strike zone and is calling strikes, below the knees, he's not going to do it for one team only. If the strike zone's big or small or whatnot, it'll be the same for both sides. At least. It could be a bad ump, but at least a bad ump for both sides equally. So there's no parity. There is no continuity. Amongst the IOC, there never has been. And like I said, the good news is this is so loud of outrage that they can't just sweep this under the rug and hope this goes away. And it shouldn't go away. People need to be loud. The media needs to be loud about this thing. And when it rolls around, I guess that would be summer in 2 years. There need to be some big sweeping changes.
Yeah. Agree completely.
Well, there are a few feel-good stories. We talked about a few names. We got Lindsay Jacob Ellis finally getting the gold in was women's snowboarding. And is she retiring? Is this her last?
She hasn't said. She's 36. This was her fifth Olympics. And she hasn't said. I mean, when they've been talking about it, they've been saying she finally got her gold. And but I don't know if she decided if she was done.
Yeah, 36, fifth Olympic. Yeah, and first gold, right?
First gold. She was the one, if you remember from a few years back. She was in the lead, like way in the lead in her final, and she hot dogged a little and did a little jump and wiped out.
Yes. Okay.
That was her.
I know the name.
That was her. I think that was her first one. That was back in 2006, I think.
Okay. So good for her. And then we've got another. We'll call it the quote unquote Dan Jansen moment. What was it? Nick Baumgartner? Was he another one?
Yeah, he was also a snowboarder, same sport. And he was in, I don't know what number Olympics this was, maybe fourth, but he's 40 years old. He's 40 years old. He's the oldest Olympian, I believe. I read that too. And he, in his individual event, which is the same as hers, she won the gold in hers. He did not have a good showing. He wiped out. He did not make the final. And he was just devastated. And you could just see that he was just a decent guy, just a decent human. He was heartbroken. They interviewed him after his race, and he was just sitting there sobbing. And but lo and behold, there is a mixed event where the men race and the women race, and it's a combined mixed event. They were a team, one of the two American teams to enter that race, and he went first, and he had a pretty decent race, and it was funny because he said, when they interviewed both of them afterwards, I mean, you could get, if you paid attention, you know where I'm going with this. They did win the gold. She was able to beat the Italian team in her final, but they interviewed him afterwards, and he was just so, you could see, just so genuine and so happy and just so relieved for it to be done and to have it already, this medal. He had not medaled of any color, and he said in his interview, he's like, I knew that even if I screwed up, Lindsay was going to carry me and I was going to be fine. And, she would make up whatever. And it was all about her. And, and I was just kind of looking at him thinking like, dude, you just had the race of your life too, to put her in that position. Cause they do a staggered start for the women, like based on how far back they are. So, yeah, it was just a really fun race to watch. Just a really good feel. You loved hearing those stories that, like, when the old guy, one for the old guy.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like I called it the Dan Jansen moment for our younger viewers out there. Dan Jansen, that's our generation. This was the speed skating. This was back when speed skating was huge. Another thing, another reason. I kind of lost interest in the Olympics this time around. You didn't have really the big names, the big stars. They used to hype these people. Like I had no idea it was Shaun White's last Olympics until he finished his last event. They used to actually the networks used to actually have some pride and hype up the stories. We used to have great figure skaters. We used to have the speed skating from Dan Jansen and Bonnie Blair to Apollo Ono with the rivalry with the South Koreans. We used to have some great stories coming out of some of these sports, and there was just no real stories. Or we just talked about three of them, but nobody you knew obviously. But as myself, like the casual sports fan who usually watches the Olympics just for the hockey, but I will tune into those other events when there's a story, but they just didn't really give us the stories. So, this was for a whole variety of reasons. This is, an Olympic that just, I don't think I'm alone in that. I think the general interest is not like it used to be. I don't know. Maybe this is just the direction of the Olympics. The Olympics are going in, as far as they're just not what they were on the in this country anyway. I can't speak to the other countries. Obviously, the Summer Olympics more successful than the Winter Olympics for the United States. It is what it is, and so that being said, we have another somewhat bittersweet moment story in Shaun White, 5 Olympics, 3-time gold medalist dating back to 2006. And he was pretty much the godfather of snowboarding because snowboarding only started, I believe, in 2006 or thereabouts, possibly 2002. But it was, the Winter X Games, the ESPN games, and it, while skiing was always an Olympic event, snowboarding was not. So he was one of the pioneers there. And then when snowboarding finally made the Olympics, he was the best in the business. So for 5 Olympics, spanning, I can't do math, 16 years of Olympics for him. Almost had to break out an Excel sheet for that. But in any case, not the riding off into the sunset moment that I'm sure he and us would have hoped for, but it is what it is. Congratulations. Great storied career of Shaun White. Really helped bring snowboarding into the mainstream. I mean, when we grew up, we skied. We didn't snowboard. I think nowadays, and I haven't skied, I have not skied since the blizzard of 96. That's the God's honest truth. Skis on 287 coming home as we feet of snow. Haven't skied since. But I think snowboarding is the bigger sport. And, Shaun White definitely, one of the godfathers there of that made snowboarding what it is. So the sport is definitely going to miss him. The Olympics are going to miss him. Did not medal this year, but that's okay. We give him a pass. So congratulations and Godspeed, Shaun White, and thank you for everything you've done for the sport, for the country, the Olympics, etc. Anything to add on that?
No, it was great. I watched his last, they do the best of 3 runs, and I did watch his final, and he did put down a really good run on his second run, and he knew he was going to have to get a little bit bigger for his third. And I think it was on his second trick, he fell on it and stumbled a little bit, and you could see the disappointment. But at the same time, the really nice moment was when he came out of the half pipe and all the competitors, every one of them from every country, was just standing there. They couldn't wait to congratulate him. And it was just a really nice moment. And you could see he was really emotional. Like he just kind of broke down and, but if you've been following him since, he's been having a really good time. So he was he showed up at hockey. He went to men's and women's hockey. He went to just all different other events. And then he made it home in time for he was at the Super Bowl on Sunday. So just, living life and enjoying the end of it all.
Good for him. And real quick, we'll touch on the hockey, which is the biggest sport in the Olympics. And for the first time, and I meant to look this up and I didn't, and I can't even tell you, the first time in God knows how long, you don't have either the United States or the Canada playing in the gold medal game. Both went out. The United States, of course, losing to what was it, Slovakia? Or was it Slovakia in a shootout? And I don't like the shootout in the Olympics. I mean, I'm done with it in the NHL. It served its purpose. I don't think competitive. There's a reason that the playoffs doesn't adopt it, because you can't have these big events coming down to a shootout. It's not right. But in any case, it is what it is. Both Canada and the U.S. knocked out. So it's going to be an interesting finals that. Well, I guess it's going to be a less than an interesting finals, but so be it. And it's probably, again, the United States and Canada lost most of it. Now, the good news is both of those countries do have a lot of really good amateur talent. In fact, the United States has actually been beating Canada in the junior international tournaments for not every one, but we've been holding our own, and we've been winning some of those tournaments against Canada. So we do have good players in the pipeline. So the competitiveness did not take a hit. It's just, just different names and contracts, and quote, one of our favorite movies, and the legendary Herb Brooks, the name on the front is more important than the one on the back. So the jersey's the jersey. I don't care what the name is. I agree with that 100%. But in any case, yes. So we're not having pros. You didn't really lose the degree of talent and competitiveness, just both teams fell short. I mean, it was bound to happen.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I was a little disappointed to go back to your earlier question. I was a little bit disappointed about the pros not being there, but, things happen. But what I was excited about was, especially just, you have all the top draft picks, all the guys that got drafted, but decided to finish out their college careers or wherever they were. And, when I watched the U.S. against Canada game, and you had Owen Power and Maddie Beniers, and Maddie Beniers I only watched that one game for Canada, but I watched a couple of the U.S. games, and Maddie Beniers is going to be a star, an absolute star. So, and then I think there were four total top draft picks that were just in that U.S. Canada game. I think that was the stat they showed. I'm sorry, I don't remember who the other two were, but that part of it was nice to see. People were comparing it to 1980. That you can't do. Like, just because it's college kids, it's no.
Yeah,
like, there was no Soviet Union. There was no Czechoslovakia. There was no, you know what I mean? So, it wasn't. The only similarity was that the U.S. had college kids, because so did every other team. So
everybody was in the same boat. In fact, the only one who might have had an advantage would have been the Russians, because they got KHL. No other country has a professional league that compares to the NHL, arguably Russia. So they might have had on paper some better talent, but clearly not.
There were a few NHLers, like there were a bunch of players that I think more so with the other countries than with US or anyone else. But you heard a lot of, when you were watching the game, you heard a lot of and they would name a player and say played 7 games with the Boston Bruins, or played X number of games, and Eric Stahl was playing for Canada.
Yeah.
Abdelkader, Justin Abdelkader was playing for the first couple of games for the US. I didn't realize they did a taxi squad in the Olympics. I didn't realize that, but then he wasn't on the roster for the last few. But yeah, so there were a lot of players that did have NHL experience, but they were either older, washed up, they were a quick call up and played a few games and then we're back down. But I thought it was exciting hockey.
Yeah,
I did.
Exactly. Like I said, at least, all teams pretty much took the same hit, by not having the pros. And these are the future stars of the NHL. So the competitiveness was speaking of competitiveness, let's go over to the ladies. You always have, seems the U.S. and Canada are going to play for the gold pretty much every time, because that's a little more on the women are a little more, U.S. and Canada are far above everyone else, really. In the men's, there's about 4, maybe 5 countries that are all, somewhat equally competing for the gold. You don't have that in the women. It's pretty much the U.S. and Canada every time. So, as expected, they played for the gold. Canada was hungry. They were a lot hungrier. That game, like you said earlier, not even as close as the score would indicate.
No.
What do you got on that one?
So I will say that game has become a highlight of the Olympics, and they showed a statistic last night that I did stay up and watch it, and they said that I think all 6 finals, I believe, had been decided by 1 goal, except one of them was 2-0, but they said it was an empty netter at the end, so it was essentially 1 goal, and so you of course are expecting more of the same. And last night was the first time I watched that game. I mean, I remember 2014 just being heartbroken for them with how that one ended, and then that got that shot at redemption at 2018. But last night it wasn't even close. I mean, the final score was 3-2. The second goal for the U.S. came in garbage time. I think 12 and a half seconds left, something like that. It was the first. I'm used to just being on the edge of my seat and needing Pepto-Bismol to get through that game. And this was the first time I watched, and it was just, you just didn't feel it. The U.S. just couldn't really get it going. They were taking terrible shots. Even if they just couldn't. The Canada goalie was on lock. I mean, she's tremendous, but they just couldn't get in a rhythm. It was 3-0. It was 2-0 in the first. They scored the third in the second. We got one back, but I think that was early in the third period that it went 3-1. And then once it got down, at the end in the frantic time, if they could have gotten that goal, the second goal, maybe 30 seconds sooner, they might have had a shot. Because even in the last 12 seconds after that last face-off, they did get down there and get a shot off. But you just wonder what they could have done with a couple more minutes. But at the same time, it shouldn't have come to that.
Right.
It wasn't. Canada deserved it. The best team won yesterday.
Yep, absolutely. Is what it is. Okay, well, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly from the Olympics. Moving on, we got a couple minutes left, so let's to the NHL. We've got 5, I believe, so let's go to the NHL real quick. Now, last week, viewers may remember Patrick White from beautiful Montreal, so he was giving us a breakdown of what's wrong with the Habs. Now, the Habs, from Stanley Cup Finals to 8 wins, so he's, they've clearly got some you, but like we said, Devils fan. Now, you guys had a good off season. Dougie Hamilton, Thomas Tatar. So you had you're in your 9th year of rebuild, but you're starting to see what. And again, I did not mean that as fact talking.
Yes, you did.
It's a fact.
Yes,
No,
you did. It's okay. We deserve it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I really didn't mean it that way. I'm not even joking. But the point is,
telling Mom.
You were supposed to be coming out of it, and I really don't mean this as forgive the comparison, but the Rangers going through our own rebuild. Obviously, we see the light at the end of the tunnel there. So with a good offseason, some good acquisitions, you were hoping to be in a much better position than you are now. That being said, you got hit with the injury bug a little bit. You lost some games from, Dougie Hamilton is still out, I believe. You lost some games from Hughes. But, you do see some signs of things to come. Jack Hughes, 30 points, 30 games since he came back. He's not even 21 yet. He can't even go out for a beer after the game. But he is clearly emerging into the one of the superstars that, that is going to take the Devils to the next generation of greatness. So, that's that. PK Subban, $9 million salary. I think it's safe to assume he will not be a Devil come next season as he's in the last year of his contract.
I hope not. I mean, you and I have talked about this at length. I'm not a huge PK Subban fan. When we signed him a few years ago, I actually was excited about him more for what he brought off the ice. The second we signed him, he immediately he's a big social media guy, and he became New Jersey. He became a New Jersey person. He moved, he and Lindsey Vonn, they came and moved. And, I remember thinking then, like, all right, cool. We haven't had a personality like this in years. So I'm like, okay, maybe this will rally the fan base. Maybe this will rally the team a little bit. And I remember saying then, because, that season we got Subban, we got Gusev, we drafted Hughes, we still had Taylor Hall. And I remember saying then, like, I haven't been this excited for the start of a Devil season in a long time. And then, that went down the toilet pretty quickly. And then this year, we went out and got Hamilton. We got Graves to shore up the defense a little bit. Tatar, hopefully, to be a goal scorer. I don't know. I give up. I don't know what to say. I have no idea.
Well, so we know that Hughes is the future. We're in agreement that Subban is not. The question is the coach, Lindy Ruff. We were talking about that. Lindy Ruff is the 6th winningest coach in NHL history. He had some great years with the Buffalo Sabres, had some great years with the Dallas Stars. But the question is, do you like what you're seeing out of Lindy Ruff? And, doing this comparison as a Ranger fan, we had Alain Vigneault, who was the number 7 winningest coach of all time. Took us to the finals in his first year, President's Trophy the second year, Game 7 of the ECF. Took a Vancouver team to the finals in 2011. But you got to start looking at these coaches as, are they really that good as to why they're putting up these regular season wins, or are they built for the regular season and not for the playoffs? Is there a reason that Lindy Ruff and Alain Vigneault have not been able to get to the Stanley Cup? You could have said the same thing about Barry Trotz too, but obviously, finally, he got there with Washington. So, nobody's won the Stanley Cup until they win the Stanley Cup. So, I guess my question is, what are your thoughts on your coach? Is your coach part of the solution or part of the problem?
I have no idea. I have no idea. That's the truth. When we hired him last year, I remember my response was a lot of people were not happy with it. I said, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to see what happens. And we've done that. We've given him a chance. But there are so many other moving parts. I mean,
Right.
I said the same thing like 2 years ago. I was screaming to fire John Hines. John Hines is the problem. It's the coach. But then we do fire him, and he goes and has success in Nashville. So you got to ask now with Ruff 2 years later, I ask the same question. Is it him? Is it something somewhere else in the organization? Is it the locker room? In the locker room? Is it the talent? I have no idea. I don't know. I know I'm throwing my hands up. I give up. I'm sitting here. I just realized I'm drinking out of my cup. 2002 Stanley Cup playoffs. I think one time since.
Yeah, well, I've got nothing to say there. Clearly, since that epic 94 ECF, you guys have clearly had a little better of a run than we had. So I deserve, I deserve a little. I deserve a shot at another one before the Devils even make the playoffs.
I can't let that happen. You know that. I can't ever let that happen.
Yeah. Well, the good news is for everyone is that the Islanders are completely falling apart. Also,
that's nice to see.
That
I'll say we agree on that. That's nice.
Yeah.
To see.
No, I know last year you with who are you guys? Yeah, Andy Green. Yeah, three of them, right? Andy Green. Who are your ex-Devils on that Islander team last year?
Green, Palmieri, Zajac. Zajac has since and we talked about this. I was pulling for the Islanders last year,
which is fine
because those three deserved it. I'm done. I'm done with that now. I'm over it.
Okay. No, I mean that's fine. And remember, I gave you another reason why, as a Devils fan, to root for the Islanders, because an Islander Stanley Cup cannot happen for me. It just can't.
I know.
It cannot happen.
I know.
Which means, I compared it to, as a Mets fan, my hatred for the Yankees as to why I root avidly for the Boston Red Sox when the Mets are clearly not an issue, because it upsets the Yankee fans. So you have all the right in the world, whether your ex-players are on it or not. By all means, you should be rooting for the Islanders.
Yeah, and Parise's there now too. Parise's there now too. So Zajac left, but Parise's there now too. So, look, whatever. I mean, Dad and I went to the hockey game. We went to the Devils game on Tuesday night. And it's like they give you this one. We went up 3-1. They give you this one little glimmer of hope. They're looking good. They score 3 goals. They lost 6-3. It was like it just the wheels came off, and it was like 5 goals, and they're unwatchable right now.
Yeah. And getting back to the Lindy Ruff thing, he hasn't had. Yeah, you had high hopes coming into the year. I think the Devils should, even with the guys they had out, I think they should be better than they are. I think they should be hovering around, within 5 to 8 points of that last wild card. Even if they, were not playoffs, they should be at least competitive. So, the question is, again, we don't know if they're not competitive because of bad coaching. I mean, as a Rangers fan, I surely know something about bad coaching. My last 3 coaches, I hated, and I think squandered on glory, not David Quinn, not the last couple of years, but I think under Elaine Vigneault and John Tortorella, I think we squandered great opportunities, great teams. But the question is, does Lindy Ruff not have the pieces? Does he just not have the pieces to compete, or are they worse than they should be because of him? Again, who knows? I don't know.
In fairness, I'll say this. I'm not prepared to blame Lindy Ruff until we have a starting goaltender.
Yes.
If we're scoring 3, 4, 5 goals a game, we should be winning those games, not losing 8-4, 8-5.
Right.
We don't have a goaltender. I mean, we tried last year. We went out and got Corey Crawford. He retired before the season started. But what are you going to do? Until we go out and make a serious move to get a goaltender, I'm not willing to put this on Ruff right now.
And that's a problem because Mackenzie Blackwood, 25 years old, 2015 second round pick, was supposed to be your future goalie, and
He's not.
Is right, and that's going to hurt you because obviously the importance of great goaltending. I grew up with Mike Richter. I just grew up with Henrik Lundqvist. You, of course,
Yep.
with Marty Brodeur. So we know the importance of a great goalie. You thought you had him, and that's going to put you back to square one. So,
yeah.
It is what it is. So be it. In any case, we are just about out of time. So
already?
Yeah. That was. I said it's a quick hour.
This was fun.
Yeah, I definitely had fun. I think we got a lot accomplished today. Good chat, Russ. So in any case, thank you so much for Lori for co-hosting, and we had a great time. Maybe any closing thoughts if you got them?
No, this was a lot of fun. Anytime. Happy to do this.
Good. Excellent. Okay, well, that is all the time we have. That is the LDM Sports Talk Show. Again, thank you, Lori, and thank you, everyone else, to our viewers. And like I said, I believe Alfonso will be back in the driver's seat next week. If not, he will be. Everybody, have a good night. Have a good weekend.
All right.